Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this new Substance live stream, Coffee Break live stream. This is number 12 iteration. I'm really happy to be with you today. We are going to talk about filters for Substance 3D Sampler, and more exactly how to make them. So to make them, we are going to use Substance 3D Designer. So if you are here, I'm assuming that you may already have some knowledge about Substance 3D Designer. If not, well, after this live stream, you can watch my previous live stream where I made a complete introduction to Substance 3D Designer. It will really help understand what we are going to do today. About the news, we are on December 2023. We have just released this week a new version of Substance 3D Modeler. It's great, so I really invited you, if you haven't tried it yet, well, to give it a shot, because it works pretty well. As always, we have the chat just here, so far so good. There is not there is 2 people at the moment watching, so if you have any question, if you just want to say hi, I always love to know where people are watching from. But at any point, if you have any question, don't hesitate. I have the chat just here, so I will see your questions. Okay, so let's go into Sampler. First of all, if you know a bit Sampler, you know that one of the strengths of Sampler is the material creation, of course, and the fact that you can use filters, well, to apply effect on materials and get new results. For example, let's take a material here. I have the library. And I'm going to choose like a ground that this one I downloaded on Substance 3D Assets, so I'm going to use this one. Hey Gopal, it's your first day, so welcome on board, Gopal. Don't hesitate to watch my other videos, especially the introductions after. That could really help you. So here I have this material, which is great, and what makes Substance 3D Sampler unique while creating material is that you have 3 categories, and you have the filter 1, which allows you to do many effects. For example, here I can say, I can look here, browse here, and I can do also spacebar to get all the filters, and I can type, for example, gravel, and it will add some gravel. So it's not directly noticeable, so I'm going to add more. And now you see, you can start adding gravel. You can choose the size somewhere here, stone size, etc, etc. This kind of filter is done with Substance 3D Designer by someone in our team. So it means that if they can do that, technically you can do that as well. Most of the filters here are made with Substance 3D Designer. Some of them, few of them are directly hard-coded. For example, the one which implies artificial intelligence, we have made. They are available. You don't see the difference here, but they have been made a different way. What we're going to see today is how to make your own filters. So let's go into Substance 3D Designer. Oh, sorry. Here. First thing first, I'm going to create a new Substance graph. And if you look at the templates on the left, you see that at the bottom here, you have Sampler filter. So you can obviously use this one to create a filter, but not only, we will see that later, but at the moment I'm going to use this Sampler filter. And here it creates all these inputs. So if you look here, there are base color input, grayscale inputs, etc. and all the outputs. So what is it exactly? So the inputs here corresponds to all the potential channels that you could have in Sampler. Let's look at this, for example. I'm going to put the view in split view like that. Oops, sorry, not like that. Like that. And you see that you have different channels here. Different ones like roughness, for example, and they are dynamic, which means that if I hide like the gravel filter, that I just added before, you see that it updates all the maps for you. So the inputs we have in Designer correspond to each each channel we have here. So it means that if I put a filter just on top of that, it will look at the current states of the channels and use it and potentially use it if necessary. And on the right you have the outputs. So these one are the maps that the channels, that your filter will be potentially able to create. It can just alter the normal map or the base color, for example, or it can alter all the necessary channel to make a material. That's really up to you. Something to retain is that this template will be updated soon. I have to talk with the team because some stuff will disappear, like for example, the diffuse won't exist anymore. It will directly be replaced by the base color, and few stuff that are going to be changed like that. But first, let's create our first filter. So what we are going to do to make it simple is just affect the base color here, this one. So what I'm going to do is to remove the diffuse. Anyway, we say that it's going to be obsolete, and all the other one. So I have one input and one output. What I want to do to make a simple example is just to alter the hue and the saturation. So to do this, we have a node. If you do spacebar, you start typing HS, and you have the HSL, which is hue, saturation, luminosity. And we are going to plug that here. So by default, it doesn't do a lot, but this one allows with the parameters to, well, change the hue. Here it's gray, so you don't see anything at the moment. Saturation, it will push in a way or another, and brightness. So let me put that to default values like that. So here, if we summarize, what the filter does, it takes the base color input, it will apply this HSL node, and then it will send the result to the current layer, which is controlled by the filter. So what I want to do is to expose some stuff so the user can have some control. So I'm going to expose this parameter. Once again, I won't get into the details about how to expose stuff, how Designer works. I made a like 1 hour and a half video on this, so keep it, bookmark it, and look at this after this video. So we are going to call it hue. It's okay. The hue parameter, okay. We can put a description, etc. So far, I don't mind. I'm going to do the same with saturation. So click, expose as new graph input, saturation, perfect. So now that we have done that, I'm going to make a double click here to get to the graph parameters. Just in case you don't have this UI configuration by default, because what I like to do is to put on my right over there the 2D view and the 3D view, and to put the properties on the left. In your case, if it's the default view, you have the properties on the right and these two views at the bottom. But this way I like to work. So double click in an empty space to get the graph parameters, and here this is important to check everything. Base parameter, nothing special to check. Attribute, you have to open it. First we are going to give a name, so I'm going to call it a color changer. So this is an identifier, so it's an internal name for Designer, but the label is the name that will appear for the artist that is going to use your filter. The type is extremely important. If you don't define that it's a filter here, sampler won't know it. So this is very important to specify it. And here, sorry. And by the way, before this type category has appeared like 1 year and a half ago. And before you had to type this to use the user data at the bottom. So let me zoom a bit. Here, this. So this is not necessary anymore. This is the old way to specify that this graph was a filter, but as I said, right now it's here, type filter, way easier. You don't have to return like some mystical code. Then physical size, in that case, it's not useful, it's a filter. You can define an icon, so either you can generate one, while here there is not that much to define, or you can even browse and select one. For example, if I go here, I can take like, let's take a vintage one that I did. This is the old algorithmic logo, the really old one. So I have a logo. I can put exposed in SBSAR and show in library, because sometimes you have some graphs that you don't want the user to see them. So this way you can make sure that they are visible. So here it's visible. If it's not the case, if you have like few technical graphs that you want to hide, just uncheck that. A description if necessary to explain what it does. You can put a category, your name, etc., etc. So let's now publish that. So first step first, you can save your graph. So I'm going to do Control S. Here you see that yesterday and the day before I make this content in French and in Spanish. So here it's called, I'm going to call my package my first sampler filters. I put plural because we are going to do different ones, and I save. Once again, if you have questions in the chat, I'm here to answer. Don't hesitate. Now, so for you on your side to publish, it's extremely easy to sampler. You just have to go here. Oops, sorry. Okay, you have to select the package name. And here you have an option to send directly to Substance Release Sampler. So that's what you have to do on your side. On my side, I have a bug that I have shared with the team to tell you a bit about my life. I had one of my hard drive that crashed, and for some reason, if I do send to 3D Sampler, now it tries to save to reflect on my old hard drive, which is not there anymore. So I have to find a way. I don't know if it's sampler or designer the guilty on that, but it does not work automatically. But for you, it will. So once you have done all of this, you just click Send to Substance Release Sampler, and it will appear in this category here, in your asset section. Here I have few materials already. In my case, I can do it, but I have to specify it by hand. So that's good on a education point of view, because you are going to see how what's going on. So what I have to do, I'm going to go here. I'm going to say I want to publish my SBSAR file, and I'm going to select a specific location. This location in Windows at least is in Document, Adobe, Substance Release Sampler, your assets. And here, everything that I'm saving here will be reflected on the folder that I showed on the other side. So I'm saving that, and now I do publish, and if I open Sampler, you see that now I have my color changer with the icon that I defined, and let's see if it works properly. I'm going to drag and drop it just before the gravels to change just the color of the ground. So by default it does nothing, which is normal because it's set up this way. But if I change the hue, you see that now it changed everything, and I can change the saturation. So of course this kind of filter already exists, so this is just an example, but it really shows how easy it is to create a filter. You see, it's just 3 nodes. An input, which is the thing that you want to modify on your previous of the existing content. Then you put the modification, and then an output. The most important part is to make sure that first your graph is defined as filter, and that the inputs and outputs are properly defined. What I mean by that is that the usage, for example, for the base color, it has to know that it's the base color, because if you just put, let's take an input like this one, for example, here there is nothing defined. If I use this input, sampler won't know what you want, where to take the information from. There is from 5 to 8, sometimes 10 different channels. So you have to specify which channel will be used. And on the same idea, you have on the base color to define an output, where to put the information. Sometimes you want to put some information in the height map to affect the, for example, the base color. So you have to specify all this stuff. Luckily, the sampler template which exists is everything is defined for you, so that works great. Another thing that we want to see is that you can use filters that you did for other applications. For example, like 4 weeks ago, I made a live stream to explain how to make parametric filters for Photoshop. Well, let me open the filter that I made. So it's called Trail Warp. And this is, well, this is a cool stuff. It allows you to get some result like this one. Let's play a bit with the preview mode. I can, you can see that you can get some interesting effect. You like that. This is a good news. I mean, because now the thing to retain is that Photoshop users, if they want, they can create their own filters with parameters, etc. Sorry, using Substance 3D Designer. So that's a great news. But let's see. This, for example, I can almost send it directly to Substance 3D Sampler. What I have to make sure here in for Photoshop filter, I just have a color input. It corresponds to the current layer. There is not the question of channel in Photoshop. One layer is just one bitmap information, let's say. So I have one input, so it would work. What you can take this, you don't have to rename it, but you have to make sure that the usage, once again, is properly defined. So here it will affect the base color. Usage, base color. Let me zoom on it like that. Whoops, sorry, there is cats who are not happy. Base color here, okay. And there is also a specific parameter for Photoshop, which is one that you can see here. Let me check. It's called document input size. So this is a really technical parameter that I asked the team who made the plugin to add, which allows me to catch the dimension of the image, because in Photoshop, it's not necessarily a square of 2 dimensions. It can be whatever dimension. So in my case, when we work in the designer, we work with power of 2 dimensions. So it will be 124, 2048, etc., etc. So I wanted to get this information to make sure that I can distort the image before to apply the effect, and then undistort them at the end, so it looks great. And the effect is not distorted in Photoshop. So I saw with the team, and this particular element, I'm going to put it like that, does not appear in Photoshop. When you have the parameters, it does not appear, which is what I want, because I don't want the user to see that is the technical. But if I do that in Sampler, Sampler does not know anything about this Photoshop specification. So I wanted to make it invisible as well, so it's not, the user don't see it and doesn't ask himself any question, what is it about, do I have to do something with that? So how to do that? I say, okay, there is something which is called visible if, that lets people create a condition to be visible. So in my case, I say visible if 1 equals 0. So as in our world 1 is never equal to 0, this parameter never appears. So it's there, it exists, but it's not visible for the user. So that's a small trick. Sometimes you want to, you have to expose some stuff for some technical reason, but you don't want the final user to see them. Just add a condition which is impossible. So this way you are sure it's not visible. Okay, so I have a version somewhere of already exported. Let me check that. Okay, where? Let me check. Okay, I'm going to find it by hand. Let me check. Oops. Okay, I'm going to look at that. So it's in document. That's 3D designer, Photoshop filter, whip, and it's my trail warp, which is there. So let me go here. I'm going to remove this color changer. And we are going to prepare a new scene before to use it, so it's going to be a bit better. So let's create another material. I'm going to change the preview object to put like a close like this one. Let's add, let's go to the library here and look for fabric. We're going to take this denim like this, but I don't want to rely on this color because what I'm going to do is to import another image. Okay, like that, for example. And the image that I'm going to import is this one, which is a vector file. It's a SVG. So how to import that? There is different ways. The one which is extremely easy is just to drag and drop, and it's here. But once again, you have to specify what this image is supposed to do, in which channel it is supposed to be used. So the easy way is to go here. You can go up to here and say base color, and honestly it works well. That said, if you want a bit more control, there is another way. You can use the channel switch. So I'm going to re-import it again like that, and I'm going to add like a channel switch. This may be something that we improve a bit, so we can do it directly while importing the image. And what it does, well, it allows you to switch the content from one channel to the other. In my case, the output channel is the base color. Indeed, that's the destination. But the input channel, well, I'm going to choose scan 1. That's why it's import by default. And now it does the same thing, except that I have some more control. I can specify the opacity here and also the blending mode. And for this kind of stuff, I like to put in overlay, so we can see a bit what's below, and more importantly, I can go back here and, for example, play with the color, and it will affect what's on top. So you have a bit more control. That's just a trick. But anyway, that's not what we are for. What I want to show you now is to use my previous, the filter I made for Photoshop, which is here. It's the trail warp, so I can either drag and drop it on my asset, or I think directly on my project. And you see now we do have the effect, so we can play, take the fuzzy strand, for example. It works pretty well, honestly. Let's push a bit the intensity, and you see that pretty quickly I reuse something. So if you are already a Substance 3D designer user and have made some filters, open them again, just check, and with few tweaks, they are going to work directly in Substance 3D Sampler. So now let's see another example. Let me check. We don't have any question in the chat, but once again, if you have any, feel free to ask. I'm here for that. And let me drink a bit. It's coffee break, but it's just water. Now, as we said, we can use here. If I go here again, we do have all these channels. So let's try to see how to use the content of a channel to create something a bit more complex. So I'm going to create another material. I'm going to call it, rename brick wall, like that. So let's change the preview, because for brick wall like this, this cloth fabric, it is not the best. So we want something vertical. So the rounded one is cool. You can take the cube one as well to change a bit. And brick wall, it's super easy. You can take a concrete or cement material. I know we do have some concrete like this. You just drag and drop it. So you have your base, And now, spacebar, if you type brick, you have the brick wall filters. Once again, that shows the power. And boom, you have your brick wall. You can play a bit with the parameters, but first of all, I'm going to go back to my clean concrete, change the color to get something that looks a bit more like bricks. Okay, something like that, for example. Here, I'm going to look at the presets, sorry, on my brick wall. Let me check that. Something like that, for example. I won't spend a lot of time. I'm just going to put less brick here and less brick there. Something like that. Let's say I'm happy. This part you just play the way you want, but first you can remember that you see how easy it is to create a brick wall within Substance 3D sampler. That's extremely simple. Now, let's imagine I have a team and I'm in charge of making some filter for them, and they say, you know what, we'd like a filter that will simulate, we'd add dirt starting from the bottom of the wall and it will go up. I want to get the control to this. So we can do that, yes. And maybe as we want to do that, so we know that we will want something vertical, but we may want to use all this information, these cracks, and maybe the height map. You see there is some volume, so I can maybe, let me, placement, increase the quality a bit, like that. So we have all this map. Once again, if I go here, you see that we have the base color. So I don't think I'm going to use it, but we have the normal map, we have the roughness map, the height map is pretty interesting, and we do have also the ambient occlusion map. And look at this. This may be super interesting to either restrain or guide the dirt that we want to make. So what we're going to use is the height map, maybe the ambient occlusion map, to try to make a mask within Designer. So let's go back in Designer. But first of all, what I'm going to do here is, as I want to make this dirt working with a brick wall, I'm going to export this material to Designer just to make some tests and try while building my material. This is super easy. Just go here and send to Designer. Here that works. So I don't know, once again, if it's Designer or the other way I have an issue, but this I just make send to Substance 3D Designer. It will calculate everything, and now in Designer you see that I do have a second project called Brick Wall that I'm going to import in a new project. But here I'm going to create a new graph first. So let me close that. We are going to make some space like that. So I have my first filter sampler filters where we are going to work. I have my brick wall that comes from sampler. I'm going to create a new graph, and this time I won't take the sampler filter, but instead let me check, let me think about that. Well, I can take it, so I'm going to take the sampler filter. Okay, so we have everything. I'm going first to remove what we don't need. So the emissive, the opacity, I'm removing that. The height map, we are going to use the input maybe, but not the output. And same for the ambient occlusion. So this I can remove. I'm just going in that case to change the metallic. I won't change it. Maybe I will. Let me check ambient occlusion, specular level. So okay, these three will remove. Roughness, I may apply it. Glossiness, I don't want that. Specular, I don't want that. And diffuse, I don't want that. Base color, yes, we are going to modify it. Normal map, we could, but in that example, we won't. Roughness map, I'm not going to use the existing one, but I will affect the output one because my dirt will have a specific roughness. Same for the metallic. I want to make sure, like, imagine you want to use this filter later on with a metal wall. You want to make sure that the dirt is not metallic. So I won't use the output once again, the input once again, but I will use the output. So I can build again a material. The height map I want a normal map. So I have, this is the 3 maps that I will affect, and these are the and these are the maps that I will use in the process. Okay, so what we want to build once again is a vertical dirt. So when you have to think about vertical, you have to be able to place point in the space. There is something great for that is the gradient, and you have like the gradient linear 1, which is a vertical mask. So let me import my brick wall here. You see I have all the outputs, but I will just need few of them. For example, the base color. If I put the base color here, you see we have that here. I can put also the roughness. Let's do that. What I'm going to do maybe here is I'm going to use a base material, which allows me to gather all the information, and I'm going just to apply that properly. So I need just three outputs. Here, so base color, roughness, metallic. At the moment, roughness, metallic, base color. I'm going to move that here, and I'm going to plug that here. I'm going to shift here to material for a second, just to plug that properly. So now I have my default wall. There is not all the maps, but we have enough to double check the visibility of everything and make sure that it works. What I can do as well here is, well, no, let's stick this way. Now, if I use that, I'm going to create just a color, which will be my dirt color. We are going to get back to that later, but for now, let's choose something like that. For example, like a dark brown. Okay, and we are going to blend them with the base color using a mask. So to blend, we use a blend. Going to put the dirt on top. Oops, here I cannot, so I have to go back to standard connection like that. And I'm going to use this mask. So few problems. First, you see that the dirt is starting from the top, which is not what we want. We want it from the bottom, and it's way too clean, too smooth. The transition is perfect, and that's not what we want. So first of all, I'm going to go here and resolve my first problem, which is just by changing the angle. And now it starts from the bottom, which is fine. Now, how to make something more realistic? Well, let's look at the library and type grunge to look at some noise. And you see here that you have some pretty interesting grunge effect. Let me check that. This one, for example, could be interesting. Let me check that. We can try that. And now, if I do that, well, it works, but everywhere. So maybe I can say I can try to blend these two together. So if I do blend, blend once again, and I take this one and this one, and I say multiply, for example. Well, it works, but we don't have a lot of control because it's still static. So what I'm going to use here is a node called histogram scan non-uniform. So there is scan and scan non-uniform, but I'm going to show you the difference right now. If I use the histogram scan, you will have control about the amount of grunge, of dirt that you have, but you see that we don't have the vertical effect. You can also control the contrast. Sorry, it's great, but once again, we don't have the vertical effect. If we look at the histogram scan scale non-uniform, it's a bit more interesting because you have a position map, and for the position map, I can use my gradient linear. And now if I take, oh, sorry, not this one here and this one there, you see that now you will have some interesting effect. You can choose the position and define vertically how it applies. I may increase the contrast like that, and you get something interesting. I may look at some other grunge map because I'm not 100% convinced by this one. Maybe this one. So to replug, I do shift, replug like that. And let's see, this one may be interesting. So let's play with the parameters. You see, I can go up and down, change the contrast, something that I like. There is just a limitation here. I think it's due to the color here. Is that, just let me check. Yeah, I need that. Is that you see, I have gray value. I don't have complete control, so I may add an histogram scan here that I put to 0.5 like that. So by default, when it's at 0.5, it's the same settings, but I can increase the contrast here. So that may be better. So let's replace this mask. And now I have something that starts to make sense, in my opinion. The good thing here is if you look at this one and play with this parameter, you already know that this parameter will be exposed because it gives the vertical control that we are looking for. So this, and here I have the contrast. This one I won't touch it that much because you see directly it gives me something that I don't like. So I will leave it to max, but this position, well, let's expose it right now. I can say expose as new graph input, and I will say dirt vertical height, like that. So now you see I don't have access here, but at the level of the graph, which means for the final user, it's available, which is great. Now we also have the color. It's a bit too uniform. But before to touch the color, maybe we can improve this mask because you see it's too perfect, and we say that it may be a good idea to use like the ambient occlusion, for example, and or the height map. So let's do that. So the height map, just to we have it, we will replug that at the end, but right now I'm going to use the one we have here. So to do this, let's play a bit. Oops, sorry. I'm going to move that a bit. Let's making some space. And I'm going to use a blend node. And let's use the ambient occlusion, maybe the height map first. Ambient occlusion. The height map, so the blend is here. This one is here. I'm going to invert this one. Should I? Let me think. I'm thinking out loud. Well, we will invert the final result at the end, maybe. So I'm going to make once again multiply and see how it goes. Okay, so let's look at that. We see that we have that before, and now I have a bit more information with this. What I'm going to do with that is putting it's a bit too strong in my opinion, so I'm going to make them transparent like that at 0.5. And I'm going to use this and do another multiplication with my mask to see how it goes, but I may invert this mask. Should I? Because, well, let's try. We'll see. If not, we can still play. Again, I'm going to put like an auto level also. Like that. So I'm just playing right now, using a blend node to multiply these two together. And let's do it. So it's not strong enough, so what I'm going to do is to put that here and put the histogram scan just after. and see how it goes. To me, it removes too much information, which is sad, especially I want to subtract the other way, I think. So I won't make a multiply. Sometimes I like to try like that. This could be interesting. Add sub, max. Let's subtract. Subtract is quite fine because I have dirt all over the bricks, but not that much inside. So I'm going to keep it this way. Once again, this is something you can play with. It's these are artistic consideration. So this is really up to you. Now, what I want to do is to give a bit more control to the color because it's too uniform. So there are different ways I could use, for example, gradient. Let me check. I could use like this, a map like this one. Control D. Maybe that's what I will do. No, that's not what I will do, but I will show you the technique anyway. I can take this grunge leak, put a gradient map. And with this gradient map, I can go in the gradient editor and, for example, pick one color here. And I will say, okay, I will pick this one. And you see here, you start to get something. And here I can say, you know what, I'm going to pick another color, but I'm going to stay close to that. So I'm going to take that and then change, for example, the value. And maybe decrease the saturation. You get something like that. I will make sure I have another, I don't have the exact same stuff here. So I can put that here. And I'm going just to change here in the base parameter. No, sorry. Base parameter? Yeah, change the random seed. So I have something which is not aligned with the mask. So it gives some more control. That works, but the only thing with that is that I cannot change the color easily because in the gradient map, you cannot expose the gradient editor. So I'm going to use another technique which works well as well, is to take this uniform color, this new leak that I had here, and I'm going to use a blend node. Oops, sorry. Like that. I'm going to plug my uniform color here, there, put the mask. So as it's the same, of course, you just have this uniform color. But what I'm going to do on the top, at the top, I'm going to use a HSL node and change a bit the value here. So if I make it, oh, sorry, I'm going to double click here. So this, I don't need it at the moment. So if I'm putting here something a bit brighter and here something darker, you see that now if you look at that, you have these variations. So I'm getting back here, adding more variation, and you find them here as well. Here I'm going to push a bit like that. So now that I have that, the great thing is if I come to my uniform color here, I can change the color and it will change everywhere, and with the variation that we do have here. This is just a small trick if you want to make variation based on the same color. So I'm going to expose this so the final user can choose the color that he wants. Like that. Let's call it dirt color, like this. So we have two parameters. Let me try to find another one here. I think we can define here, if I'm not wrong, the contrast, which is interesting. I think you can define that. So I'm going to put this to 0.5. The position, it's another one. I'm going to leave it to 0.5, this one. Let me check. Maybe a bit more, 0.7, because okay. And now this contrast to 0.5, and I'm going to expose this, and I'm going to call this transition contrast. Okay, so I could expose more, but I think we have a lot. So now what I'm going to do, this was just for testing. What I'm going to do now is to take this and plug it to these ones. So Shift, base color. Here I have the roughness. Roughness, do I need it? Oh no, we have to do the roughness. That's fine. We're going to do it. Base color is done. Ambient occlusion. This is what we are going to replug. So height map. We take this one, we put it in height map. And ambient occlusion, we take this one and we put it to ambient occlusion. Once again, this is just for preview right now. Let's continue. Just two stuff to fix is the metallic of the roughness. That's kind of easy. Oh, why is it black like that? Did I forget anything? Oh, it's because I have the ambient occlusion here, so I cannot see. It's not a big deal. So we know that the mask works anyway because we tried it. So I'm going to use this mask, and what I'm going to do is two blend nodes. One here with this mask. So I plug it and I do Control D. And one is going to be used with the base color, with the rough ambient occlusion. Let me check. I removed some stuff that I shouldn't have removed. So let me remove that and that. And let's fix some stuff. So here I have two inputs missing that I removed by mistake, but that's not a big deal. So here what I need is to create my roughness input. So input, it wants roughness input grayscale. As it's my roughness, the most important part here is to define the usage to roughness, like that. And at the top, I'm going to define the color for my dirt roughness, so a uniform color. That I switch to grayscale, that's fine. And my roughness, I could try to make something like just let me put my brick wall back so we see what we do, because it's hard. Okay. So my roughness right now, I'm going to define something, well, more rough, of course. Maybe like that. That's something that you may want also to expose. So I'm going to put like 0.75 expose as new graph input, sorry, dirt roughness, like that. And for the metallic, well, it will be dirt, so it will be black. So this one, what I'm going to do is, once again, I'm creating another input, grayscale. I leave it to black, and I'm making sure that the type is metallic. And here I can type also metallic. Oops. Okay, and here uniform. So this one goes here, and at the top. Where is my second input? My second color. I didn't create it yet. Uniform color here, and to grayscale, and I leave it to black, like that. So my metallic is good, my uniform color is good. I'm going to replug that. I think we should be more or less good to go. So I'm going to replug here and there. So height, ambient occlusion. So the inputs are set. I have two other here, by the way. This one is roughness. I'm going to name it properly. And roughness. Okay, so these are the input with my base color somewhere here. Just if you do V, I think you align all of them like that. This is just for testing. You can leave it. It's okay. Now let's look at the graph. So we have our 4 parameters. Base parameter, we don't have to touch anything. Attribute, we give it a name. So vertical dirt. Type, it's a filter. Perfect. You can generate an icon, even if in that case it won't be super interesting. It will be a gray one, but once again, you can import your own image. It will be better. You can add a description, category, name, etc. Let's select the package here, and you can do re-export like that. Now, if I go into sampler, if we remove that and go to my assets, you see that I have my vertical gradient, so vertical dirt, sorry. So I just have to try it and see if it goes well, and it seems to work pretty well. I'm going to remove the tiling here so we can see properly. It seems to work, huh? Not that bad. You see, you can choose the vertical height. You can change the color here. So it means that if you want to make some painting, for example, well, that's something that you could think about, especially as we put the roughness. You see, you can make some pretty interesting effect, to be honest. And I'm going to show you a last trick. When you do some filters, even some materials, don't forget that you can also create presets, and they are pretty interesting because sometimes you can have some complex filters or materials and people don't know where to start from. So if you show the example by creating interesting presets, well, they could do that. So that's exactly what we're going to do. I'm going back here and double click to get the graph parameters, hiding the attributes. And here, let's say we have our default, which is the dirt stuff. Anyhow, we cannot see anything for now, so I'm just going to replug temporarily the height and the ambient occlusion, because if not, it will be hard to work. So height, ambient occlusion, and maybe just for the base color so we can see what we're doing. Okay, so let's say this is our default dirt. We're happy with that, and if you go into the preview, you see that here you can, so first you have the parameter, that's what is defined. You can go to preview to play and first to check if everything works well, but also to try new variation. The great thing with preview is that it doesn't change your default settings, except if you specify it. Here, for example, I can change here, you see, change the color to something like that. And if I go back to parameters, you see that default are still saved, unless I do a click here and apply current settings by default, but I don't want to do that. Now what I want to do is to create like a red painting as we saw, so I want to change the roughness, something like that. Here it's flat because we don't have the normal map, but it will work in sampler. And maybe I want to add some contrast, something like that. Maybe a bit less height, like this, for example. So let's say this is my red painting preset. To do that, you can either click here and say create new presets with current settings, or you can go to preset and say new, and now you have a new one based on that. I'm just going to change the name to red painting. I'm going to make sure I update that. So now I have two settings. So if I go to preview, I can go to default settings or red painting. And I'm going to make another quick one where I put this at the bottom like that. And I'm going to put white as a color, something like that. And diminish the transition, the contrast. Something with almost no contrast, something like that. And once again, here I'm going create preset, just going there to set white paint bottom. Like this, update. I'm going to go to re-export that. And now if you go to sampler, something interesting, especially for iteration, is that if you look here, you see that it says, watch out, one layer has changed. So update all now. You can click either here or to reload. And now you see that I have the same material, same setting, but I have my presets, which are there, which is quite cool. What is the Gopal is asking, what is the difference between Substance Sampler and Designer? Well, that's a good question. First, a bit that you have said, both are useful to create materials. For example, in Sampler, you also have the ability to, let's say, I like to compare it to the bridge between the real world and the virtual world, because you can also scan stuff, like use an image and make a material from it, use a set of image and to grab an illumination, or use a set of image to reconstruct a 3D object. So that stuff, you can do it in Sampler. But the first one, for example, material creation this way, that's something you can do in Designer. But they are not at the same abstraction level, let's say. If you talk about Designer, Designer is a bit like an atomic. You are really at the atomic level. This is the core of the Substance 3D ecosystem. You can create material, filter, etc., defining everything, but really at the low level. Meanwhile, Sampler is more, you are going to have some resources, like you have a cement, like a concrete material, and you put a filter on top of it, and boom, you have your brick wall. It's like comparing a bit, if we compare with toys, comparing Lego and Playmobil. Lego is Substance 3D Designer, and Playmobil would be more Sampler, in a way that in Lego, if you want to make in a Designer, if you want to make a, let's say, well, when you play Lego, if you want a car, you have to build the car, each part one by one, etc. Meanwhile, in Playmobil, you will have the car, you will have a palm tree, you will have something, and you can start playing way faster. That said, if you need a new car, you may have to go to Designer and then bring it. So that's how I would compare it. Like, let's compare. Yeah, you can compare to food as well, saying like Designer, you are going to homegrown, or everything you need, your vegetable in your garden, to prepare everything from scratch. Meanwhile, in Sampler, you are going to already buy some stuff which are already made and start cooking with that. So it's way faster. What I like to do is, if I need something extremely specific, I will go to Designer, try to build it, and then I will use it in Sampler to try to build on top of it, because the UI is way cleaner. You see, you have like that. I love Designer, I love Sampler, but I'm not using it at the same step in my material creation, for example. I hope it makes sense for you. Anyway, I think I'm going to wait like a few minutes. That's a perfect time to ask questions. If you are watching this after, don't hesitate to ask questions also in the chat. And by the way, once you have that, this is something that you can after export really quickly to Designer, Stager, Painter, etc. to complete your project. I think we are good. I don't see any other question. So let me go back to this view. Here we go. I think that we are good. I hope you like this live stream. Once again, if you like, don't hesitate to share. It always helps. In 2 weeks, we'll have another special live stream, which may be a bit different. We may do a game with some people from the community. To be defined, but stay tuned. That can be cool. Thanks again for watching. Last watch at the chat. And see you in 2 weeks or in a few videos that I'm going to post meanwhile. Ciao.